You probably are sitting there right now, and you and your significant other are pondering how to get the $50,000 Navy Fed personal loan. So, in today's conversation, I have great news for you. I'm going to share with you hacks, very important hacks you can apply today if you are trying to get the $50,000 Navy Federal personal loans for co-borrowers who need a massive guaranteed approval real fast. We're speaking about massive guaranteed approval real fast for you and your significant other. Don't you go anywhere. You're going to love today's conversation. I guarantee it. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweaty Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka. Now let's roll. In today's conversation, I want to speak to you about the $50,000 Navy Federal personal loan hacks for borrowers who need a massive guaranteed approval real fast. First thing first, so here are the steps. I want you to follow the steps right now. First, you need to think about employment. Are you currently employed? Is your husband or wife or partner employed? Because we really need to elucidate. We need to clarify the situation there, okay? Because if you can't prove employment, then we have a problem. So Navy Fed will have a hard time approving your loan, even as co-borrowers. The thing is, when you have co-borrowers, one co-borrower is always stronger, financially speaking. So you gotta really think about who among the pair, who between you and your partner is the stronger candidate. Anyway, you're going to have to provide data for both candidates, but you want to highlight the financially stronger co-applicants. Very important. And when we talk about employment, you need to verify your pay and your partner's pay and employment for the last 3 employers. Okay, so whether those occupations were full-time, part-time, temporary, or seasonal doesn't really matter. Because Navy Fed is just trying to see the source of cash flow, the source and amount of cash flow. Because you're getting a loan, they want to make sure you are able to repay the loan. That's all they care about. Okay, it's all about risk mitigation anyway. So when we speak about employment and your way to prove employment and income, you can supply things like pay stubs, returns, W-2s and 1099s, bank statements, employer contact information, and what have you. So all those items that I just listed, you have to supply them for both yourself and your significant other. Okay, so it's important. Now, one thing I want to say, so here is the approach I want you to follow. Here is the approach. You want to gather information for each applicant, but you want to put on top of the application the documentation that pertains to the financially stronger co-applicants. Financially stronger co-borrower. That's what you put on top, and then you put the second co-borrower's information at the bottom. If you want to actually get the Navy Federal personal loan, and you are co-borrowers, and you're trying to get a massive guaranteed approval real fast, make sure that you actually buttress, that you solidify, that you strengthen your Navy Fed banking relationship. This is important. We have said it. I have said this time and again, folks. Some folks are tired of me saying it, but hey, listen. When they say it, I'm like, listen. You're just repeating the same thing all the time. And my answer is very simple. My answer is your dad or your mom had to repeat certain things to you from the get-go, so that you today can have it. The same thing here. I want you to be approved. I want you to be approved for a credit card. I want you to be approved for a loan. So I don't care about how, if I have to repeat this every single day, I'll repeat it because I want you to really understand the importance. I want you to really get why it is preeminent to have a strong relationship with Navy Fed. Okay? The rest, I really don't care. You can hit my ass, whatever. I really don't care. So again, you need to have a strong relationship. Both of y'all, both you and your significant other, must be Navy Fed members. And you can have a joint accounts or you can have individual accounts, but you want to actually buttress your relationship across the board. So where you're speaking about what we call our favorite quintet, our quintet. You want to have checking accounts, savings accounts, MMAs, money market accounts, certificate of deposits, IRAs. Okay, you should have an IRA anyway. If you're a couple, you need to have IRAs because, hey, listen, right now you probably are in your 30s or 40s. You are all married, and having barbecue, having fun all the time. You're making money. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when you are old, you want to make sure that you have enough cash to take care of business, to care for yourself, to buy the things you want to have, because your vigor, your stamina at that point will go down. So you wouldn't have the energy, the physical ability to work anymore. You'll be retiring. So you need to have some cash. Think about that right now. So that was just a little digression here. But coming back to the NFCU MPR, big decision time for you. Big decision time. How many accounts do you have, boss? I want you and your spouse to answer me. How many accounts across the board do you have with Navy Fed? And how much money are you keeping in those accounts? Are you keeping peanuts? Or are you keeping some serious paper in those accounts? Let us talk about the conditions here. If you are trying to get the $50,000 personal loan with Navy Fed, and you are trying to co-borrow here, okay, you're not doing solo. You're doing it with your significant other, or the co-borrower can be somebody else. It doesn't have to be somebody that you share a household with. No, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, whatever. You guys are committed to entering into a contract with Navy Fed, a loan contract with Navy Fed. So the thing is, make sure that you familiarize yourself with the loan requirements, okay? And this is this particular session we actually did. We want to give a shout out to John Buslin. John Buslin, you are currently in Arizona, and we love you. We thank you for your question, and hopefully you are listening to us. This is important. You want to familiarize yourself with the loan requirements, okay? And the thing is, especially you said you are a legal assistant. Okay, if you are a legal assistant, that's fantastic. Just trying to make sure that you have enough cash, that's for sure, but you want to pay attention to the requirements of the loan. Navy Fed wants to pay, they have 5 things to pay attention to. Your credit score and history. Okay, do you have a decent credit score? Do you have minimum 600? Those are important things. I mean, what kind of stuff do you have in your financial closet? Do you have skeletons? Do you have some derogatory items? What do you have? Talk to me. Okay? And so those are important. So you really want to clean those as well. This is why I was just telling you earlier that you want to actually put forward the financially stronger co-borrower. That way you're just trying to quote unquote distract the Navy Fed from looking at your your very heavy skeleton. What about your income? So income is another condition that is part of the loan. It's another loan condition, loan eligibility. Okay, your debt to income ratio is important. Navy Fed wants you to be around 35%. What about collateral? Collateral could be you could be asked to you could be required to collateralize the loan. So if you have some assets you like to pledge, you want to study that right now. The thing is, you need to study the requirements of the loan. Okay, and the third thing, the last thing is that in some cases, Navy Fed generally do not charge an origination fee, but depending on your location, depending on the amount of money you want to get from them, they might charge you an origination fee. My point is, you want to ask as many questions as possible. Okay, it's all about educating yourself. It's all about knowing as much as possible about the loan before you sign your name on it, on the promissory note. Speaking about DTI, which is important, of course, it's another condition that you have to pay attention to. Now, the thing is, it's pretty tricky. When we talk about DTI and CUR, and we're speaking about co-borrowers, it's very tricky. Why? Because you have to analyze this equation in multiple ways. First of all, do you have a joint credit card? Because let's first start with the CUR. So your credit utilization ratio. Do you have joint credit cards, or does each spouse have in the relationship, they have their own credit cards? If they do, what is the CUR on each individual credit card? What's the CUR on each individual credit card based on the spouse? In other words, do you have a CUR? Do you have an aggregate CUR of, let's say, 40%? And does your husband or wife have an aggregate CUR of, say, 25%? So you need to analyze the delta between the individual CURs, and you got to think about the overall CUR. In other words, the CUR for both you and your partner. This is why I was just telling you it's a little bit complex. If you have questions about this part, please drop them below, and we'll definitely explain to you further. That's for the CUR. The DTI also it's very important. Your DTI means what you want to live within your means, right? You are trying to have debt payments that are in line with how much money you are making. So we are speaking about your income. So this is important. So here we are going to analyze the delta between your debt payments, the range between your debt payments and how much you're making, so that we can see whether there is synergy, whether your DTI is in line with the kind of loan that you're trying to get from Navy Fed. Because see, the thing is that if Navy Fed sees that you are already saturated, they have enough debts already, they're not going to extend you another line of credit, another debt product. That's bad for them. Okay, so it's all about making sure that you manage your DTI and CUR. Here I'm speaking about joint management. I'm not speaking just to you, boss. I'm speaking to you and your spouse at the same time, or your significant other, or your friend, or your family member, or your colleague. Doesn't matter. The person that you are co-borrowing with, please explain those things to that person. It's important. Let us talk about the paperwork. So paperwork is really important also, because the thing is that applying for a loan in Navy Fed, this is kind of similar to other institutions for that matter. The other thing is that depending on the location of your application, you might be required to provide some documentation. So it's important to have the right loan documentation. First of all, you're going to have to fill out a loan application. So in this case, it will be a joint loan application. Okay, but so you're going to have to provide everything from confirmation of your residence, confirmation of your employment, your pay stubs, your 1099, your W-2s, and what have you. You also have to think about your personal tax returns, your joint returns, because if you're applying as co-borrowers, chances are, and Navy Fed loves it when you have joint returns, because it wouldn't make sense if you have individual returns, but for a loan you are trying to do joint borrowers. It might look a little bizarre. So this is why Navy Fed loves when co-borrowers have joint returns. They'll ask you to provide proof of identity. Okay, so this could be driver's license, other state issued ID, passports, certificate of deposit, certificate of citizenship. Okay, and it will be really interesting to have a deposit certificate as a proof of identity. But you get my point. My point here is that Navy Fed will ask you a lot of information in terms of your employment, your income, the loan application itself, the form itself. You have to provide proof of identity. You have to provide proof of address. Navy Fed wants to know where you live. It's important. So here are the pro tips for you. Here are some pro tips. What you want to do is you want to gather all your information on one side. And you want to gather your spouse's information or your spouse's paperwork on the other side, so you don't mix them. Okay. Again, you are filing as co-borrowers, but you want to keep information really separate so that you can access it real fast. One thing I also want to say is that when we think about paperwork, and I think I've said this before, you want to apply preferably for this personal loan, at a branch. Okay, and make sure that you go there with your significant other, with a co-borrower, so that you are clear on the terms and the conditions. Okay, this is really important. I'll be right back, but after this, don't go anywhere.
Ceiling.
Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show, another section of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are still having a conversation about the $50,000 Navy Federal personal hacks for co-borrowers, okay, who want fast and guaranteed large approval. Number 6, you want to demonstrate how you will pay back the loan. The thing is that Navy Fed will love to believe you if you tell them you will pay back the loan. The only thing is, if you don't have proof, you ain't getting the money. You are not getting the money. So it's all about making sure that you ascertain your capability, your joint capability to repay the loan. Okay, so we're speaking about listing all your sources of income. Okay, and so you have to list all your sources of income. You have to list your expenses. So Navy Fed can do a quick DTI sort of analysis and figure out if you have enough room, enough capacity to actually get the new loan, actually get the payments on that new loan. Okay, this is really important. And one thing I also want you to do, you need to determine your joint net cash flow. In other words, you want to realize, when we talk about cash flows, net cash flows, we're speaking about cash inflows minus cash outflows. In other words, what is your disposable income? What is your disposable cash flow at the end of each month? Is that growing up? Is that growing? Is that receding? Talk to me about that, boss. Talk to me about it. I mean, it's important to understand the implications of your cash flows, right? Okay, so one thing you need to understand, if you are in a territory where your household's cash position is really not that great, there are ways to actually improve your net cash flows. There are definitely ways, that means you and your husband or you and your wife have to work maybe two jobs. They have to get a second job, okay? Maybe take a living job, for example, if you are in the healthcare industry, like my mom is. Those are really important things. So money. What is your cash flow position, boss? What is your joint cash flow position? Is it something very interesting? Is this something that you would like to emulate, or this is just like, okay, whatever, those are the parents and I'm out of here. So let's talk about the last thing. The last thing is your FICO score. FICO score is so critical. I mean, especially when we are speaking about a joint, a co-borrower requirements. Your FICO score becomes very important. So here, I'm not just speaking about your individual FICO score. We are looking at both FICO scores at the same time. See, the simultaneous analysis of those two elements is really important, because that's what the lender is going to do anyway. So you want to verify if you want to take steps right now to improve your individual score. You want to tell you want to tell your partner to do the same thing too. Okay, verify your accounts are current. You want to dispute your inaccuracies. If there are some inaccuracies, go ahead and dispute them. Ask for a little grace. I mean, the thing is that sometimes it's just better to call the lender or the credit card issuer and say, listen, I would like to have a little grace, and you want to set up collections, charge-offs, judgments, and liens. Okay, so you want to settle those up. Very important. And what I'm trying to say here is that you have to do this at both levels, both your personal level, but also at your spouse's level. Really important. And you also want to improve your debt utilization ratio. Now, your DTI is something that you have to improve over time. Obviously, you have to agree on these objectives with your spouse, with your partner. Okay, so that everything is clear to everybody. And it's important to have that clarity, because if you don't have that clarity, that means that you can have potential problems in the future. Okay, this is really important. So credit card. How are you using, boss? How are you using your credit card to reduce your debt utilization ratio? Because this is really important. Yeah, how are you using your credit card to reduce your credit utilization ratio? That's what I meant. So this is important, because having a credit card doesn't mean that you are having a low DTI. Okay, but it's how you manage your personal finances, your household finances, the kind of choices you want to get into, the kind of the kind of money, the kind of expense you are going to use the money for. Because the thing is, we are speaking about $50,000 per joint loan, but what are you going to use the cash for? Navy Fed might be curious. and ask you to talk about that. Okay, so you want to make sure that you are using the cash for something solid, something that will have long, let's say, rewards over the long run and whatnot. Very important. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I shared with you $50,000 Navy Federal personal loan hacks for co-borrowers who need a little bit of information, who also need a little bit of help in terms of understanding what they can do to get a massive guaranteed approval real fast. So we talked about employment, we talked about NFCU MPR, conditions, DTI and CUR, paperwork, liquidity, and FICO. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time, but until then, remember, stay marvelous.